The old shotgun. So, you want to be a mind reader? First up on the curriculum is a little something called shotgunning. No, you don't actually blast your audience with a 12 gauge, though that would certainly be a memorable performance. Instead, you're firing off a scattershot of incredibly vague statements to a large group of people. Think of it like this. You yell into a crowd, "Someone here has a deceased relative named John." Statistically, you're bound to hit something. In a room of 100 people, the odds of someone having a dead grandpa, uncle, or parakeet named John are surprisingly high. Once some poor schmuck inevitably raises their hand, you've got your fish on the hook. Then you can narrow it down, pretending you knew it was their great uncle all along. It's basically psychic buckshot, and it's devastatingly effective. Barnum's bunkum. Next, we have the bread and butter of every fortune cookie and horoscope writer, the Barnum Statement. Named after the legendary showman P.T. Barnum, who famously said there's a sucker born every minute, these are phrases that sound deeply personal but apply to almost everyone. You have a great need for other people to like and admire you. Wow, you've just described every single person on this godforsaken planet. At times you are extroverted, sociable, while at other times you are introverted, wary, reserved. Congratulations, you've just defined the human experience. These statements are like a psychic Swiss Army knife, endlessly useful and fitting into any situation. The subject does all the work, fitting your generic nonsense into their own life's narrative. It's the ultimate know you of the mentalist world, hot and steamy. Now, if you're feeling particularly lazy and morally bankrupt, you can always resort to hot reading. This is the mentalist's equivalent of cheating on an open book test. Instead of using clever psychological tricks, you just get the information beforehand. This can be as simple as rummaging through someone's trash, checking their social media, or planting a bug in their home. In the old-timey days of spiritualism, mediums would have accomplices who would gather gossip from the townsfolk before the seance. Then the medium would channel the spirits, who just so happened to know that Mrs. McGillicuddy's husband was secretly a fan of dressing up as a badger on weekends. It's a scummy tactic, but hey, if you're going to grift, you might as well go for the gold. The rainbow ruse. Ever heard a psychic say something like, "You can be a very shy and quiet person, but when the mood strikes, you can be the life of the party"? That, my friends, is the rainbow ruse. It's a statement that covers two opposite ends of a personality trait, making it impossible to be wrong. It's like saying sometimes you're asleep, but other times you're awake. Well, duh. By presenting these two contradictory options, you let the person you're reading choose which one applies to them at that moment. They'll then confirm your hit, conveniently forgetting the other half of the statement. It's a beautifully simple way to appear insightful while saying absolutely nothing of substance. It's the have your cake and eat it too of psychological manipulation, fishing for info. A good mentalist is also a master angler, but instead of fish, they're fishing for information. This involves asking a series of seemingly innocuous questions that are actually designed to elicit revealing answers. They might start with a broad question like, "I'm seeing a connection to a significant event in your past. Does the number 1980 something mean anything to you?" The person might then say, "Oh, I graduated high school in 1987. Boom. The mentalist can then pretend they were zeroing in on that exact year all along. They'll cleverly ignore all their misses and focus on the one time they get a bite. It's a game of 20 questions disguised as a psychic revelation, and the audience is none the wiser, bless their cotton socks. Echo chamber. This one's a classic from the grimy world of old school mediums. Picture this: a darkened room, a group of grieving widows, and a psychic who's just a little too good at remembering things. The echo chamber technique is all about listening intently to the chit-chat before the seance even begins. People, especially in a group, will nervously talk about their dear departed Aunt Mildred and her unfortunate unicycle accident. The medium, with ears like a bat, soaks it all in. Then, an hour later, during the channeling, they'll miraculously receive a message about Aunt Mildred and her one-wheeled demise. The sitters are flabbergasted, completely forgetting they were the ones who provided the information in the first place. It's a beautifully simple and devious trick of memory and timing. The reluctant psychic. A surprisingly effective tactic is to pretend you're not even sure about your own powers. The reluctant psychic approach involves a lot of hemming and hawing. I'm getting an image. It's a bit fuzzy. A large body of water. Does that mean anything to you? This does a couple of things. First, it makes you seem more genuine and less like a slick salesman. Second, it puts the onus on the subject to make the connection. If they live near a lake, they'll latch onto that. If they once almost drowned in a puddle, they'll think of that. You're just throwing out a vague, half-formed idea and letting their own brain do the heavy lifting. It's a low-risk, high-reward strategy for the aspiring mind meddler, the psychic equivalent of a shoulder shrug. The veiled threat. Here's a little number that's as old as time and twice as nasty, the veiled threat. This isn't about telling someone you know where they live. Instead, it's a subtle form of psychological coercion. The reader might say something like, "I sense a darkness around you," a great opportunity you might miss if you're not open to the spirits. Suddenly, the person being read feels a pressure to believe, to cooperate. They don't want to be the reason they miss out on their one big chance at love or a winning lottery ticket. It's a sneaky way of ensuring compliance by preying on people's hopes and fears. It's the kind of thing that would make a used car salesman blush, and it's been a tool of charlatans for centuries. Memory manipulation. Our brains are weird, squishy things that are terrible at remembering things accurately. Mentalists know this and exploit it with glee. They can use a technique called retroactive fitting. Here's how it works. They'll make a bunch of vague predictions. I see a journey over water in your near future, and a financial windfall is coming your way. A month later, you take a ferry to see your cousin and find a $20 bill on the ground. Your brain, eager to find patterns, will connect these events to the psychic's predictions, conveniently forgetting all the other stuff they said that didn't come true. You'll remember the hits and discard the misses, creating a false memory of an incredibly accurate reading. The pre-show. Ever wonder how those TV mentalists seem to know so much about their audience members? Well, a lot of the time the show starts long before the cameras start rolling. This is the world of the pre-show. The mentalist or their team will mingle with the audience as they're coming in, striking up casual conversations. So, what brings you here tonight? Celebrating anything special? They'll gather names, personal stories, and little tidbits of information. Then, during the performance, the mentalist will randomly select someone and divine the very information they were spoon-fed an hour earlier. It's a classic bit of behind-the-scenes trickery that makes the impossible seem plausible to the unsuspecting masses. Muscle reading. Now for something a little more hands-on. Muscle reading, or contact mind reading, is a technique where the mentalist physically touches the subject, usually by holding their hand or wrist. They'll then ask the person to think of a hidden object in the room. As they walk around, they're not actually reading the person's mind. They're reading their muscles. The subject will unconsciously give tiny, involuntary movements in the direction of the object. It's like a human game of hot and cold, but with subtle muscle twitches instead of shouting. A skilled muscle reader can use these cues to miraculously find the hidden item, leaving the audience to wonder if they're part psychic, part human lie detector with freakishly sensitive fingers. The power of suggestion. This one is less of a single trick and more of a pervasive, all-encompassing strategy. The power of suggestion is the mentalist's best friend. By using confident language, a commanding presence, and a whole lot of theatricality, they can plant ideas in people's minds. They might say, "You're starting to feel a tingling sensation in your hand, aren't you?" And because you're in a suggestible state, you might actually start to feel it. This is the same principle behind the placebo effect. If you believe something is going to happen, your brain can sometimes make it so. A master of suggestion can make you believe you're feeling things, thinking things, and even seeing things that aren't there. It's spooky stuff. The visual cue. People are walking, talking billboards of information, and a savvy mentalist is an expert at reading the signs. This goes beyond just noticing a wedding ring. They're looking at the brand of your clothes, the wear on your shoes, your hairstyle, your posture, even the way you speak. A person with a farmer's tan and calloused hands probably isn't a desk jockey. Someone with a faint accent might be from a specific region. These are all clues that a mentalist can weave into their reading to make it seem like they have an almost supernatural insight into your life. It's not mind reading. It's just being incredibly observant and a little bit judgmental, which, let's be honest, is a skill we all possess. The no game. Believe it or not, a mentalist can actually get a hit from a no. Here's how the no game works. The mentalist makes a statement, "I'm sensing a connection to the name Michael." The person says, "No, I don't know a Michael." The mentalist, without missing a beat, replies, "You're right to be cautious. The spirits are telling me that Michael is someone you should have known, a missed connection." Suddenly, the miss is transformed into an even more profound and mysterious hit. The person is left to wonder about this enigmatic Michael and the life they could have had. All while the mentalist chalks up another successful reading by turning a failure into a win. The leading question. A leading question is a question that's phrased in a way that suggests a particular answer. Mentalists are masters of this dark art. Instead of asking, "Do you have a brother?" they might say with a knowing look, "I'm sensing a strong fraternal bond. Tell me about your brother." The second phrasing presupposes the existence of a brother, making it more likely that the person will confirm the hit or feel compelled to elaborate on their family structure. If they don't have a brother, they'll correct the mentalist, who can then use the no game or some other trick to recover. It's a subtle but powerful way of guiding the conversation and increasing the odds of a successful reading. The time delay. This is a trick that plays on our natural tendency to forget the details like we forget our own birthdays. A mentalist might make a very specific and likely incorrect prediction during a reading. For example, next Tuesday you will receive a phone call from a long-lost friend. When next Tuesday comes and goes without a call, you'll probably forget all about it. But if, by some sheer coincidence, a long-lost friend does call you a month later, Your brain will make the connection, and you'll remember the mentalist's incredible accuracy. The time delay allows for the misses to be forgotten, and the coincidental hits to be remembered and amplified into proof of psychic power. The final reveal. Every good mentalism routine has a grand finale, the final reveal that leaves the audience speechless and questioning reality. This is often a pre-planned and meticulously executed trick that has nothing to do with mind reading. It could be a sealed envelope containing a prediction that matches a seemingly random choice made by an audience member. The secret might be a clever bit of sleight of hand, a hidden assistant, or a rigged prop. All the previous mind reading was just a warm-up act, a way of building suspense and making the final trick seem all the more impossible. It's the cherry on top of the sundae of deception, the final flourish that solidifies the mentalist's reputation. Just trying to help. One of the most insidious tools in the mentalist's box is the sympathetic persona. They present themselves not as performers, but as genuine, caring individuals who just want to help people connect with lost loved ones or find guidance. They'll adopt a soft, soothing tone, offer tissues, and give knowing nods of understanding. This creates an atmosphere of trust and emotional vulnerability. When you believe someone has your best interests at heart, your skepticism melts away. You're no longer a critical observer. You're a participant in a therapeutic session. This emotional connection makes all the other tricks 10 times more effective. Because who wants to doubt someone who's being so gosh darn nice? It's a disarmingly powerful bit of emotional puppetry.